Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Is everyone excited for the upcoming winter break?
Yeah.
It's kind of that time of year. We need that. Well, thank you for joining us today. We have a pretty packed agenda, so we might be talking like engineers to fit it, or excuse me, auctioneers to fit it all in. Not engineers. So I'm going to get started here quickly. Wanted to share some updates and housekeeping items with this audience. We have pretty packed agenda, as I said, so I'll cruise through this list. We have some exciting news. A lot of our positions that we've shared with you over the past year are filled. So delighted to welcome in February our new payroll manager. Yes, can we hear a round of applause for that? Is going to be joining our larger in February, and she comes from a university background. She also has been working with the Jonas Salk Institute. She's from the California area, but is relocating here to Colorado to be nearer to family. So we're thrilled and delighted to have her join our team. We also have two new team members joining next week, so you'll meet them at the in the meeting in the new year. Denitza, who also goes by Danny, is joining our benefits team as a benefits accounting administrator, and payroll technician Andrew Penland next week. And then we're thrilled to announce Jacqueline has accepted our offer to be our payroll accountant. Jacqueline, are you here in the back today? Congratulations. We're so excited to have you into that role. Yeah. Thank you. Jacqueline will be Congratulations to Vivian. So very exciting. Do we have any other new team members here today that would like to stand up and introduce themselves? No? Okay. Some project updates. We've been very busy and wanted to share some of the updates that are moving ahead. So I'll run through this list. We talked to you a few months ago and got some feedback around the website project that we're embarking on, and we've received approval from the procurement team to move forward with our project here in the new year. So we're just finalizing a few last details with that procurement agreement, and in the new year we will host a kickoff meeting, and we'll be reaching out to those of you who indicated an interest on the form that you submitted after that last website meeting, to ask you to provide some additional feedback and react to some of the architectural design and input as we embark on that project. So really excited to get that kicked off and moving. The University Business Office Task Force HR Functional Committee has been very busy. We have a subgroup that has identified 10 focus areas of work, and that team has committed to meeting 2 times before the new year, and they're all working on individual projects such as HR actions, which include Oracle actions and information around systems and process. We also have some subgroups focused on looking at onboarding. And to think of all 10, I won't remember off the top of my head, but a lot of good work being done in that space. So a lot of energy and really good work to be had. Wanted to also share with you an update on our classification review. We've engaged with an outside vendor who has expertise in HR, specifically classification and compensation work. They are helping us work through a very busy queue. I think as a university, we have a high volume of not only AP and state classified requests for modifications, create new, and the queue has consistently been in the 200 plus range for AP alone. So we brought in a firm to help the classification team start to get through that queue and figure out how we can also look at the system itself and make recommendations about process improvement. In addition to that, the compensation arm of that project was started many years ago with a group called Aon. Some of you have been here probably familiar with that work. And we recently re-engaged with Aon to talk about what is that next phase, how can we move this body of work forward, and we'll be sharing more as that effort develops. But wanted to give you an update that that is going to be a priority project in 2020. So over the next year plus, we will be focused on closing out that work and making sure that we have a full, well-rounded approach to compensation and classification with that arrangement.
Hey, Robin, so the compensation that, are you talking about just processing of existing paperwork and getting that done, or are you talking about sort of salary equity in a holistic way to make sure that compensation is equitable across various organizations within the institution?
Sure, thank you for that question. So the project that we engaged previously with Aon with is really looking at compensation structure. So today there is certainly good work being done out in all of the HR offices on campus and across the university, but holistically we do not have approach to compensation that you would see in an organization of our size, and really leveling and looking at market-based pricing. So it will be to stand up that architecture. We'll go through a very robust process where we have discussions with campus constituents, as well as using market data, looking at best practices with regard to salary ranges and bands, and fitting in the classifications appropriately. So it will be a very involved process. Equity is already looked at as this organization in the current structure. We have a review that's done on an annual basis, and also through our state classified efforts, there are protocols in place that exist. But this is really looking at architecting and fitting in classifications where they should be structured based on market data.
Okay, that's good. Excellent.
Yeah.
The equity, you said it's already in place and we're already doing that. Who's got the lead on that?
So the Office of Equal Opportunity does an annual report for our AP, and Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, faculty is a part of that as well?
For non-tenure track faculty, AP, and state class.
So who can I work with if I think I see an issue?
The Office of Equal Opportunity would be the place to start, and the person who's point on that, probably Nick from our HR team.
Nick?
Mhm.
Yep.
All right, thanks.
Good question, thank you. And then wanted to just quickly share, we have had some new hires on larger HR team for the university, and we've been piloting some onboarding tools through their first few months of hire, and trying to get a sense of what's needed, begin to build a portfolio of resources, and that will be something that the group is continuing, the central HR team is continuing to develop. But wanted to let you know that we heard the feedback that there is a need for new tools around HR liaison training and onboarding in particular, and the central department functional areas are working on pulling all of those resources and tools together into a formalized structure and packet, and we're meeting on a monthly basis and building a toolkit that we will eventually share more widely, and hopefully we'll incorporate that into a page on the website project as well. But that work is moving forward and getting some feedback from our volunteers. Chris, I don't know if I saw Chris out here, if she's here. And also Kristen. Today, thanks, Kristen. So we're getting feedback as we help them through their onboarding transition, and we'll be making changes accordingly and building the resource packet. So wanted to let you know that that work is moving forward as well. Yes.
So the HR liaison onboarding, is that strictly for the college level HR liaisons, or is it going to be also departmental HR liaisons?
So we're working through what that can look like and differentiating according to role and need, and so that is a part of the lens that we're applying to the project. So I wanted to take a few minutes to invite our colleagues up from our Business and Financial Services team, specifically from the tax division. Would you mind, Liz and Jolene, coming up? They have some information they'd like to share.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Jolene.
Hi, Jolene. Welcome.
First introduction to many people because she's new in the tax accountant role. I'm Liz Tatro. I'm the tax manager in Business and Financial Services. So we just kind of wanted to, as Robin was talking about onboarding and particularly the foreign national population, I think we'd all agree that that's kind of the most complex area in terms of onboarding new employees. And I've been here for 2 years, and previously I was in the role that Jolene now occupies as the tax accountant. And a big part of that role is as the foreign national tax, what would you call it, specialist. So I think there's like a lot of things that could be done to improve the communication between our office and you guys. And we would like to come back to a future meeting and get on the agenda to like present some of the issues that we've noticed. And we'd like to give you guys some time to think about things that you would like to bring to our attention. And we actually met with Christina Servin just a couple days ago, and she brought some things forward that, you know, we were like, oh, we didn't know that. You know, we didn't know that's what you did. And kind of just understanding each other's processes a little bit better. And, you know, so that's kind of what we would like to do at a future meeting. So we thought that would be a great idea. So that's what we wanted to, you know, introduce to you guys today.
And I would say in the meantime, feel free to reach out to me if there's anything before that time we talk about.
All right, so thank you so much for having us here today. And it's nice to actually put names to faces too. I know I've met with, you know, a lot of you in the past, or several of you, I should say, but we mostly communicate by email. But thank you for having us here today.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to Tracy. Tracy has some updates around the upcoming holiday pay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
On a totally irrelevant note, I had a dream last night that Harry Styles was at this meeting. And I'm a little disappointed that he's not there. It's very nice to see all of you. Here. Google. I'll put his music on. He's got really good hair, and I just had a vision of it anyway. Okay. On a plus side, thank you. All right. So I know this is a very ugly slide. I apologize. I just wanted to give some context about the change to Rule 510 on state personnel rules for state classified holiday pay. Previously, you can see the underlined in red, the unpaid leave in the month was a factor. Effective November 1st, they've taken that out. Believe me, if we had known before November 1st, y'all would have known before November 1st, but we did not. We learned about this mid-month. So because so many actions had already been entered, Joey in classified records, he handled those. Nick helped a little, I think, but and processed them. But if you don't know what that means, if you recall, if a state classified employee has leave without pay during the month, it impacts how much holiday pay they earn, known as holiday loss. That is no longer the case. So if an employee, I've got one person going. So if a person, regardless of whether or not they have leave without pay, they will earn 8 hours of holiday leave for every holiday. The exception, because it can never be that easy, is underlined in blue in the new rule. If an employee is on short-term disability, then they don't earn that time because it would impact their benefits. Easy peasy? Right. So hopefully, most of you will know if you have an employee on short-term disability, the department completes the section of the application. If you have questions on that, please contact our office by whether or not you should enter holiday leave for those individuals. I think the biggest glitch or challenge will be when an employee is on leave without pay for the full month and isn't on short-term disability benefits, you'll have to enter that holiday leave for them. Okay? Any questions on that? Good. Just a little aside, with Governor Polis and the new executive director of the Department of Personnel Administration for the state, we're seeing a lot of activity around initiatives. So we kind of anticipate, we know there are some that they're proposing some changes to rules. We're kind of anticipating a number of changes that could come through. We're providing feedback, and we'll let you know what we hear as soon as we hear. We promise. So thank you. And then just quickly, a little update on the governor's holidays, right? The governor granted the day after Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve for state employees. We are observing those December 23rd and 24th. If your employees will take the leave on the days that we're observing them, that will be holiday leave. If not, they'll have that time to use as administrative leave at another time before the end of the fiscal year. So you'll have to track that within your department. Similarly, the early closure, we close at 2 p.m. We have our, unique 7:45 to 4:45 schedule, but we will still grant 3 hours. We'll close at 2, but every employee will get 3 hours of holiday leave and or administrative leave. All of that is prorated for regular part-time employees. Yeah, Christina?
I thought I saw an email that said that 2 to 5 would be administrative, not holiday. Or should it be holiday?
It's the same concept. If they're observing it at the time the university is closed, 2 to 5 on the 31st, holiday leave, otherwise administrative leave. Yes?
I hear a lot of if they observe it.
Yes.
Is this kind of an option side, or are you referring to employees who?
Yes, if an employee has to work. So if they take the time when the university observes it, but if they have to work, then they would take it another time. Good question, thank you. Any other questions? Kathy?
This is just back to the leave without pay to confirm. It sounds like the audio may be cutting in. If a person is out the whole month on leave without pay, they are still given the 8 hours holiday for each holiday.
Correct. So if someone is fully on leave without pay for December and they're a full-time employee, they will receive the 40 hours for the week that we are closed, 23rd through blah, blah, 27th. Right. And then also the 3 hours on the 31st. No, it's prorated either way. It's prorated for a full day or for that partial time. So if it's half time, they get an hour and a half. Yep. Yeah.
Is overtime an option?
Well,
Do they have to take?
Holiday, if they work on the holiday, with a distinction, Kathy, with a distinction between the governor's holiday and an actual legal holiday. They work on an actual legal holiday, they're paid for the time that they work and the holiday pay. They work on a governor's holiday, they're paid for the time they work, and they get 8 hours administrative leave at another time. Got that? So if they work on the early closure. Good question. So I think that it is. We have folks who are handling that a number of different ways. Some are shifting the time. Some are allowing an earlier release after their shift. So a 5-hour shift essentially observing that 3 hours at another time. So I think there's some latitude we can discuss if you have to have someone here, or if they can work at a different time, but somehow, how do they get that 3 hours of time? Okay? Okay? Going, oh, okay.
You can't read fast enough, let's see, Nick, so, one of them, will you keep November open so we can make the adjustment for this new ruling on holiday leave? This time clock plus.
I believe
Well,
we made them already, right?
The leave without pay changes? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Joey has been catching those as they come through. We caught all the ones that had already come through before we knew about the rule, and Joey made mathematical adjustments and sent those to Elaine in payroll, who made the correction.
Cool.
So those should be all set.
Okay.
So they shouldn't have to make an adjustment for
Correct.
November. We did that, Superman Joey, remember?
Yay! And then, I think more information, we had employees work on Thanksgiving who are FLSA non-exempt. We entered the time they worked in the holiday salary, 8 hours, is that correct?
That's correct.
For any additional questions, should they
Call
contact you?
Kathy.
No,
No.
no.
I'm happy to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Good job, Tracy.
Okay, so another quick update, and then we'll move into our breakout groups. As all of you know, the Fair Labor Standards Act is, the Department of Labor has issued a change for January 1, 2020, and wanted to just give you a couple updates. We have been working with those who have one of the identified employees or more in their group. If you have not been contacted by Therese Boschman at this point, you do not have anyone in your group. We had a little over 100 people on our list. Therese is working on verifying the FTE values and making sure that this calculation does have an impact, whether you want to make the employee continue to be non-exempt or switch them to non-exempt is a question she sent out last Friday, or if you're going to make an adjustment to salary. And she sent a spreadsheet with that information that will, she's requested a response by this coming Friday, the 13th. And you'll need to indicate on that sheet if you're doing an exemption change. If so, the HRIS team will make those updates before the start of the new year in our system. If you are making a salary change, we ask that you input the amount of the salary on the spreadsheet and also take action before January 10th with an Oracle action to submit that so the pay is reflected accordingly on the January check. And all letters to employees will be out by the latest mid-next week. We'll be sending them to the HR liaison population, asking you to disseminate to the individuals within your division, department, college. And Teresa's here today if you have questions. She's sitting right here up front.
Let me know if you have any questions.
Or send her a quick note. Sorry, go ahead. So a decision has to be made if they're at lower than the minimum.
Right,
And they are currently exempt,
right, so based on their.
and you're not making a change, we would need to have a decision point. Is the salary going to increase above the threshold, or is it going to be a switch to the non-exempt status going forward? And they would become overtime eligible, and Teresa's notification information has instructions about how to switch over with Nick and the HRIS and records team making a change in the system. It will flip them over to record time differently in Time Clock Plus. We're made aware of that change. Okay, so I'm going to hand the mic over to Nick and Melissa. They have two separate presentations, so I'm going to let them explain that, but we're hoping to collect some of your feedback. We had a very robust discussion about the new hire pre-employment paperwork at our last meeting, and Nick is going to lead a session on collecting feedback and sharing additional information on that topic, and Melissa is going to be hosting a separate dialogue about the HR liaison onboarding experience on the other half of the room. So I'll let them explain the protocols here in a little more detail.
Okay. So, hi everybody. So essentially, I'll talk about my part of this while Melissa's coming up. I presented at this meeting a time or two ago about the new hire packets that we're revisiting. It used to just be a new hire checklist. It still is on our website. But we wanted to flesh that out and make it more usable for both the HR liaison and the employee. So as you walked in, hopefully you got a packet. The back page of that is feedback on new hire packets. Essentially, I want to have a brainstorming session with those of you who are interested as to what we should include in that. What should be in there for HR liaisons to take note of, reminders, et cetera. And then what part of that can be broken off and handed to the employee? What does every employee need to know on their first day or before their first day, as it were? So we're going to have a discussion about that, and maybe we'll be here at the front of the room. Melissa has her folks at the back of the room already. So, and you?
Yes, so as I mentioned earlier, formalize. Right now, we're working on creating some online trainings, like a training suite for incoming liaisons that'll be housed in the learning management system, Bridge. Other things we're working on kind of more standardized desk manuals for liaisons, covering those Oracle entries. What we're hoping to do today, that's the other part of your questionnaire, and if you didn't get one, I have them up here. We want some feedback about what sort of ideal onboarding, would look like from your perspective for new hires coming in. So
new hire packets, onboarding checklists, or I shouldn't use the word onboarding. New hire packets and checklists at the front of the room, onboarding information at the back of the room, and this is here so that you can give feedback. This will drive conversation, but you can also give feedback if you didn't attend and you wanted to give feedback on the other session. And this is not a competition, but I do want to win, so.
I also want him to win.
Yeah. Yes, great question. So we'll make these available on the HR website on the HR Liaison meetings page that we have where we post the videos for these sessions. I'll put the documents up there as well. You can fill them out and send them in.
And I would just add to Nick's topic that at the last meeting we recognized we had a lot of discussion about electronic signatures and how we can move this into a system. And we are still moving towards that direction. There are a lot of variables that exist, but we are hosting conversations and looking at opportunities to use existing sources and talking with, outside vendors to see what opportunities we have to help us move towards that. So know that, our aim is to have a much sleeker, more efficient process, but in the meantime, figuring out what we can do with the resources that we do have to make this a more user-friendly process.
That's absolutely right. And we also anticipate that no matter what we have for onboarding in the future, there will be this will help drive that as well. What do we need to be thinking about as we go through that work? So, yeah. Okay. Breakout session. Go. Thank you.